Okay. Good evening, everyone. Like I said, thank you for joining us tonight for the ranked choice voting, what you need to know. We're going to have a dynamic event tonight where we are going to learn about ranked choice voting, as I said, engage in interactive practice of the event. Let me just do a little housekeeping first. If you're not speaking, if everyone can make sure that you're on mute, so we have minimized the background noise. Thank you. I'm Yomika Bennett, the Executive Director of the New York Charter Schools Association. I'm going to get things started here tonight, kick off this event as your co-host. Jackie Martell from Achievement First is your co-host as well. This evening is brought to you by the New York Charter Schools Association, Achievement First, Uncommon, KIP, C3S, and Democracy Prep. So let's give a shout out to all our partner organizations for making this happen, as well as Rank the Vote NYC and Democracy NYC. You'll see presentations from them later. Looking forward to that. Very excited to go through that and take my first shot at ranked choice voting myself. As you all know, this year the general election in New York City will be held on November 2nd, 2021. New Yorkers will vote for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough presidents, at least most of them, and city council members. The primary election is June 22nd of this year. So June 22nd will be the primary vote. However, what's important to know before all that is what to do and to remember that the last day to register to vote is March 28th. So I'll go through that again for those who need to hear it again. March 28th is the last day to vote in New York City. The elections this year are, as they are every year, they're important. The offices up for election this year are mayor, controller, public advocate, borough presidents, and city council seats. Know the candidates, right? Know your days to register, know when your voting date, your election dates are, and be informed about who the candidates are. With all these offices up for election and all the candidates that are out there, even though the November may seem like a long time away, June may seem like a long time away, understanding what is ranked choice voting, how it works, what you need to know before you go to the polls. And what we'll do tonight is our distinguished guests will discuss all of this and prepare you to exercise your right to vote and decide who will help bring your community, your city, your schools back to better than before once we are all out of this COVID. These are the people who are going to help lead the charge. It's your voice, your vote that will help make that happen and matter. So allow me first to introduce our distinguished guests. Then Jackie Martell from Achievement First will introduce our featured presenters from Rank the Vote NYC and Democracy NYC. We'll start with our first guest. I'm honored to introduce Senator Leroy Camry of the 14th Senate District, which encompasses portions of Jamaica, Cambria Heights, Queens Village, Hollis, St. Albans, Laurelton, Jamaica Estates, Briarwood, Crest Hill, and Kew Gardens. Welcome, Senator. I'm happy to have you here today, excited to have you here today. Would you like to make a few comments to the group?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say that I look forward to hearing the presentation. I look forward to everyone hearing the presentation. I look forward to making sure that we inform as many people about this ranked choice voting debacle that we got into. But anyhow, I'm gonna just leave it at that because this is about information. It's not about pointing fingers at this point. It's important that we get this information out, and I would hope that everyone learns it so that we can spread the information so that as many people as possible can understand that in this year where we're going to have maybe 20 mayoral candidates on the ballot, multiple candidates in every election race, that they are going to have to take time and have some patience and understand they got to turn that ballot upside down and inside out so that they can do everything necessary to vote for all of the people they want to. Because along with the mayoral candidates and the borough president and city council, there are going to be judicial elections also, and I think 2 ballot initiatives. So it's going to be a longer ballot than the presidential ballot was. But thank you for putting this event together. I just want to let folks know that I took the first Pfizer shot today at the York College Super Mega Site, and I feel fine. I feel fine. No, I'm just kidding. I feel fine. So it's just I want to encourage everybody to get this shot, and I want to encourage everybody to inform their friends and family as soon as they're eligible to get the shot, because I miss seeing people. This Zoom thing is okay on one level, but I want to see some real interaction. So again, thank you for hosting this, and thank you for letting me say a few words.
Thank you, appreciate that. Words of wisdom indeed, both about the ballot, what the importance is, and the vaccine. So thank you for that, Senator. Assemblywoman Stephanie Zinnerman, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you again, the 56th Assembly District Representative, which includes Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. Welcome. Would you like to say a few words and greetings to the group?
I would. Thank you so much, Jimmy and Jacqueline and the New York State Charter Association for hosting this very important event. You know that I'm always excited to talk anything civic engagement, and there's nothing more important than exercising our and your voices than the vote. I'm especially pleased to be here tonight to talk about ranked choice voting. Because as some of you who may have followed me knew that when this was a ballot initiative, I was not for ranked choice voting, not because in principle I had a problem with the way the vote was going to happen, but I just didn't believe that New York City was ready at that particular time. We had passed a number of ballot initiatives that year, and people were just getting used to the fact that we were going to be voting in June, as opposed to in September. And so I also did not see that there was going to be a robust enough plan in place to inform the voters. That's why I'm so excited about the work that you all are doing tonight, making sure that people are informed about what ranked choice voting is, but also what we all need to do to prepare to vote in a new way. And so in addition to what we usually do of thinking about who we would want to vote for, we now have to think about coalition building. This is something that the charter school family is very used to doing. You guys know how to do that better than most. And so you have a leg up in that. But tonight is about learning the mechanics of RCV, but now looking at those candidates and looking at what coalition is going to best move your agenda. Because remember, voting is all about your values and what you want to see in your representation. And so I think all of the presenters that will come this evening to talk about this, and I look forward to working with you to continue to getting this message out to other people as they need it. And I'm super excited about the fact that I know that there are young people on the call tonight, and that's most important because you're going to be our future voters. So you need to have this down pat so that when it's your turn, you are ready to vote. So thank you again for the invitation, and I look forward to the conversation.
All right, thank you very much, Assemblywoman. Yes, young people are the future on this. So I'm looking forward to doing this and more and more and more to get people ready, fired up, and well-informed. Our next featured speaker is Councilmember Alika Ampere from the 41st Council District, representing Bedford-Stuyvesant, Ocean Hill-Brownsville, East Flatbush, and Crown Heights. Welcome, welcome, Council Member. Would you like to say anything and address the group?
Thank you so much, Alika, and thanks for the invite. Good evening to everyone. Knowing what we know about the difficulties with inspiring our people to come out and vote and to participate, because we always complain about low voter turnout. There are so many reasons why we should be focused, mindful, and intentional about inspiring our people, right? And everything that we have gone through in 2020 should be an inspiration. But we also get very frustrated when it comes to change. And Assemblywoman Zinnerman mentioned the fact that when we voted on the referendum, there were so many changes that took place already that we had to explain and educate the voters around. And that was the fact that there's a June primary instead of a September primary. But also there's early voting, right? Having to explain early voting, coupled with the fact that there's always complaints about the Board of Election and how they roll out anything that's new, or just trying to perfect and get right a system that's been in place for decades already. And that's training of the poll workers, That's, educating the poll workers to tell the voters to turn over the ballot. There are so many challenges with the Board of Election and Campaign Finance Board that now we have ranked choice voting. And so it is my hope that while we are talking and training, talking to voters and training about the RCV process, but we're also being mindful of all of these different issues in our community that's already been an issue during the pandemic. And so I really hope that with the advocates on the call and with all of the training that we're doing and the training of the trainers, that we are really talking about how are we making sure that our seniors are educated and get to the polls, and not just a course itself, but do they really know what this means? And not just our seniors, but just our voters, period. And so I just want us to be mindful of all of those challenges and intentional in partnering with our community-based organizations and schools and leaders and everyone else. And so I just want to remind everyone that I introduced and passed the Ranked Choice Voting Education Bill 1974 that is supposed to speak directly to requiring the Campaign Finance Board to partner with community-based organizations to do direct outreach to ethnic media outlets, and to make sure that we are printing outreach educational materials in large print. And so we can't depend and rely on the Campaign Finance Board to connect with those groups. We have to make sure that they know who we are. And so, if you can just reach out to your elected officials' offices and my office to let us know who these groups are that may not be connected, but are like uber local, we can make sure that they're being connected to campaign finance so that they can possibly get some of the subcontracts to go out there and do the work that the city will not do. So with that being said, I look forward to tonight's discussion. And that's all. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you, Council Member, and heard about the connection with the Board of Elections and community groups. We will be sure to reach out and make sure that to you and to the Board of Elections to make sure that they know where they are, who they are, and help make those community connections. So thank you for that. Before I turn it over to Jackie, I just want to take a moment to ask some of our partners represented here today to just sort of unmute yourself, just shout out your name real quick. We'll do that for about a minute, and then we'll turn it right over to Jackie, because I see you, Natasha, I see you, Mariella, I see you, Michael, and so on and so forth. But please take 1 second, introduce, just say your name, your organization, and smile and wave.
Hi, everyone. I'll go first. My name is Mariela Mesa. I'm the Associate Director of Advocacy for KIPP NYC Schools.
Natasha Cherry Perez, Senior Associate Director of Community Engagement with Uncommon Schools, and I'm so happy to see everybody here tonight. Thank you.
Michael Catlin, the Executive Director of the Coalition for Community Charters, known as C3S, and we're here to address this very important issue of a ranked choice vote.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maureen K. Lambert from Uncommon Schools. I'm the Associate Director of Community Engagement, and I'm so excited to talk about ranked choice voting tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Princess Lyles, Vice President of External Affairs at Democracy Public Schools, and this is little Nina.
Hello, everyone. So thank you so much for being here. And we just heard some valuable words about the importance of education around this new voting system. And so we're going to delve into a robust presentation from one of our partners, Rank the Vote NYC's Sean Duger, who serves as the Education Campaign Program Director, who is going to walk us through what ranked choice voting is, and how you can be more informed when you're going to hit the polls or when you're mailing in your ballot. And we're going to actually put this into practice and do like a mock simulation of ranked choice voting. So I'm very excited about that. But before I do that, and I don't know if I introduced myself, but I'm Jacqueline Martell, and I humbly serve as the Director of External Relations and Advocacy for Achievement First Charter Schools. And before we do that, I wanted to see who's in the room, and we always do this, this is not practice, because you have people from all over New York. So I want to see who's really represented. So if you could just take a minute or two and throw in the chat which borough you're representing. If you want to get really funky with it, which school you're representing. I want to see who's in the room tonight. I'm representing Harlem, Uptown. Oh, I see AF East Brooklyn High. Come on, let's keep it going. I know we got Brooklyn heavy in the house. Bronx, BK. All right.
East New York.
Troy, New York. Okay, East New York. All right. That's what I like to see. So I'm gonna turn it. Oh, okay. It's coming in. Keep them coming in because we want to know who is in the room and who is representing. I'm a little biased here. AF, come on. No, I'm just joking. But I'm gonna turn it over to Sean Dugar, who will just jump right into a presentation on ranked choice voting.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. It's actually exciting seeing the chat light up and everyone rep where they're from. So my name is Sean Dugar. As I said, I'm the Education Campaign Program Director for Rank the Vote NYC. I hail from the Bay Area of California, where for the last decade, I've run candidate campaigns under ranked choice voting, done education campaigns, and traveled the country talking about ranked choice voting and my experiences. So I'm excited to be with you all this evening. Before we get started, I am going to post one more time in the chat the link so you all can participate in the mock election that we'll go through the results of shortly. With that, I am going to start sharing my screen. And so, can you all see it? Awesome. Cool, so let's get started. A quick recap on the changes that are coming to the upcoming elections this year. So how do we get here? We know in 2009, there was a costly, low turnout runoff election for public advocate and comptroller, prompting the debate over the voting procedures and process and ensuring that there's a larger turnout of voters. So in 2010, then Councilmember Gail Brewer introduced the first ranked choice voting legislation in the city. In 2010 and 2018, charter revision commissions met both times to explore ranked choice voting and other solutions to the city's charter, which, as you may know, is essentially the city's constitution. During the 2018 Charter Revision Commission, the commission met and had dozens of hearings and heard from hundreds and hundreds of community residents and organizations. And one solution that continued to be brought up was ranked choice voting. So by a vote of 14-1, the Charter Revision Commission voted to place question 1 on the November 2019 ballot. And so voters voted with over 73% of the vote to implement ranked choice voting in New York municipal elections. So how do we get here? The city recently implemented term limits, which has led to 32 open council seats this June election alone. Those 32 open seats and the city's robust campaign finance system have led to over 450 candidates so far filing to run for local office. Now, under the previous voting method, those candidates would have risked splitting the vote and someone who doesn't represent the diversity of the city being elected into leadership. We know under the former system of voting, a council member could be elected with as little as 20% of the vote. That means that 80% of voters voted for someone else and were not heard in the final process. So what's changing? Starting this year, all local, primary, and special elections for city council, borough president, public advocate, comptroller, and mayor will be ranked choice voting elections. That means you will have the option of ranking up to 5 of your favorite candidates in each race, including a write-in if you so choose. Under ranked choice voting, runoffs are eliminated. So we no longer have that second election. And a candidate needs to win with at least 50% plus one of the vote, or a majority. So some races that were mentioned earlier are not ranked choice voting races. So remember, it's only for local elections. So judge and district attorney and legislator and member of Congress and president, those are not local races and will not be considered, will not be included under the ranking process. So let's talk election day. Election day is Tuesday, June 22nd. Your last day to register, I know that earlier said March, it's actually May 28th. And your last day to change your address, if you're already registered to vote, is June 2nd. Early voting will run from Saturday, June 12th, which is a very important day to me, it's my birthday, from Saturday, June 12th through Sunday, June 20th. And then as usual, election day is on a Tuesday. So it's Tuesday, June 22nd, and polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So how do you think about ranking? We like to say your first choice is the candidate you love. It's the candidate you may volunteer for. It's the candidate you may contribute to. But at the very least, it's the candidate that you're telling your family, your friends, and your neighbors about. It may be that person from your neighborhood, from your community, who you've seen day in and day out for years and years. It's that person who's there with you on the majority of the issues. And it's that person who you just love. Your second choice is a candidate that you like. You know, they may not be that person that you've seen in your community for a number of years, but they're still there with you on the majority of the issues, and you know will do a good job in elected office. Your third and your fourth choices are candidates, you know, who maybe you like slightly less, but you still like, and are there with you on some of the issues, but not all the issues, but you know you can push them to do the right thing. And then your fifth choice is the candidate that you can stand. You know, it may be in the past a candidate you would have had to hold your nose to vote for, but you know definitely is a better candidate than other folks in the race, and you think will do a good job in office. So here you can see an example of a ranked ballot. You see this voter voted candidate C as their first choice and filled in that bubble, candidate B as their second choice, candidate E as their third, candidate D as their fourth, and candidate A as their fifth. But we'll dive a little bit deeper into what that looks like. So here's a video from our friends in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We are very close to having our own video completed. So hopefully in the next week, you all will be seeing our bodega snacks, which may or may not include a bodega cat knocking stuff off the shelf as it's eliminated. But here's the video from our friends in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Olivia Owl. Changes are coming to the way we vote. With the new ranked choice voting, the next time you vote, instead of choosing just one candidate, you can rank them all from your first choice to your last. Here's how it works. Let's say these 5 candidates all run for mayor of Animal Town. This voter ranks Lucinda as her top choice for mayor. She also ranks her second choice Diego, third choice Betty, fourth choice Roberto, and fifth choice Felix. If Lucinda wins more than 50% of all the first ranked votes, then she's the new mayor. However, if no candidate gets more than 50%, then the least popular candidate is eliminated. Sorry, Felix. The remaining second-ranked votes from Felix's voters are redistributed. So if a number of Felix's voters rank Betty and Diego, then those 2 candidates receive additional votes. The new totals are counted and the process repeats until one candidate earns more than 50% of the total votes. Congrats, Diego, you're the new mayor. Back in the real world.
So that's a quick explainer, but let's jump into the mock election and the results from that. Let's see. So this is an election that we've been running throughout Black History Month. And so You'll see we have a total of 136 people who have participated in this mock election. Again, under ranked choice voting, you need to meet the threshold of 50% plus one of the votes in order to win. So in this case, with 136 votes, a winner would need to reach 69 votes in order to win. So we see here, these are the first choice votes that people marked on their ballot. And so we see that no candidate has reached that threshold of 69 votes. So we have Shirley Chisholm in the lead with 31 votes, Martin Luther King with 21 votes, Frederick Douglass with 19 votes, John Lewis with 17, Rosa Parks with 13, Ida B. Wells with 12, Malcolm X with 11, Maya Angelou with 7, and Bayard Rustin with 5. Again, these are just the first choice votes. So if no candidate has met that threshold of 50% plus one of first choice votes, then the candidate, in this case Bayard Rustin, with the lowest number of votes is eliminated. And his 5 voters then have their second choice kick in. And so we'll see here that Bayard Rustin, his 5, after he's eliminated, his 5 votes will be redistributed. And so we see here that Ida B. Wells, Malcolm X, and Frederick Douglass, I believe, all picked up second choice votes from Bayard Rustin's voters. We continue the process. So next, Maya Angelou, as the lowest vote getter, has lost the race and will be eliminated. And her votes are redistributed. So we see her 7 votes split largely between Rosa Parks and Shirley Chisholm. We continue this process. Next will be Malcolm X and his 13 votes. And we continue the process. And we continue the process until a candidate reaches that threshold of 50% plus one. And so in this instance, we see that Shirley Chisholm not only wins with 50% plus one, but she's gained an extra 11 votes, which means she has an overwhelming mandate to govern and has the support of the majority of her district behind her. Something else to note, you'll see here at the bottom, it says exhausted votes. There were only 5 people who did not have a say in the final process. There were only 5 out of 136 voters who did not include either Martin Luther King or Shirley Chisholm somewhere on their ballot. Remember, we talked about candidates being elected with only 20% of the vote and 80% of voters voting for someone else. Ranked choice voting changes that. So we're going to jump back into the slideshow. Feel free to type in questions in the chat box and we'll do Q&A after this presentation is done. So this is an example of what your ballot will look like. Here we see 4 offices. So we see the race for mayor, for public advocate, for comptroller, and for council member, all on the same ballot. Now, the reality is we know that here there are only 5 candidates for mayor listed. I believe last count was 35 qualified candidates or 35 candidates who filed to run for mayor. So that list will definitely be longer and may take up at least half, if not a whole ballot. That means you will definitely have to turn over your ballot in order to rank the other offices, including comptroller, public advocate, and council member. But here, similar to what we saw before, you see the rankings in columns and the candidates in rows. So you will go column by column, picking your favorite, your first, your second, your third, fourth, and fifth choices, including a write-in if you so choose, but just one write-in. So let's talk about the counting process. Again, the counting rounds only kick in if no candidate receives 50% plus one of first choice votes. So for those of you who may be in Queens, we saw in Council District 24 in a special election a few weeks ago that the ranking process did not kick in because one candidate received close to 60% of the vote of first choice votes. So the ranking process did not kick in. However, what we saw last night in Council District 31 is that it is most likely that there will be rounds, the ranking process will kick in after all the votes have been counted. So as is usual, no winner will be declared until all votes are counted, including early, election day, affidavit, and absentee votes. So what you'll see on election night is what you normally see. You will see the total of votes, in this case, first choice votes of voters who voted at polling places. So it's voters who voted early and on election day. We know that the Board of Elections has to wait 7 days before it can start to count absentee ballots so that they can ensure that they've received all ballots from the Postal Service. And then they have to wait 13 days past Election Day before they can start to count military overseas ballots. So we know it takes at least 2 weeks before we have final results. And again, if no candidate has received 50% plus one of first choice votes, then the ranking process kicks in. That process in the general election will be simply hitting the button on the keyboard. So it takes about 30 seconds to tabulate all of those, or to go through the ranking process. So ranked choice voting in the primary election does not add on any time to the counting process. So why should you use your rankings? We like to say ranked choice voting gives you more choice and more power. More choice because you get to have more of a say on your ballot. The more people you rank, the longer your ballot continues to work for you and the longer your voice is heard in the process. And more power because ranked choice voting forces candidates, not you as the voters having to go out and research everyone, but candidates to talk to every single voter because they can no longer count on just a small subset, a small block of voters to win. They need first, second, third, fourth, and fifth choices from everyone. Even if your favorite candidate doesn't win, you still have a say in who's elected. You can vote your conscience without worrying that you're wasting your vote. And ranking a second, third, fourth, or fifth choice never hurts your first choice candidate, your favorite candidate, because those rankings only kick in if your first choice, if your favorite, has already lost the race and been eliminated. So let's quickly go through some frequently asked questions. How many candidates do I rank? You can rank up to 5 candidates or as few as you like. Do I have to use all 5 rankings? No. You can choose 1 candidate, you can choose 3, you can choose 5. It's completely up to you. Can I rank a candidate more than once? This is important. No, you cannot. If you rank a candidate more than once, you risk your ballot being rejected. So if you're going in and voting in person, either early or on election day, and you rank a candidate, let's say your first choice, and then you rank somebody else for second, and then you go back and rank that same first choice again as your third, or if you just do it all the way across the line and vote for the same candidate in all 5 rankings, the machine will spit out your ballot when you put it in. Now you do have the choice, you can ask for up to 2 additional ballots to ensure that in the final process that your ballot counts. Now, if you're voting by mail, it's a little bit more tricky. You have to catch the mistake yourself before you mail in your ballot. We know that in New York, we have what we call a secret ballot. That means that once the BOE receives your ballot and takes it out of the envelope, there's no way of knowing who that ballot belongs to and notifying them of a mistake. So if you're voting by mail and you catch it yourself, but catch the error yourself before you put it in the mail, you can reach out to the BOE and ask for a replacement ballot. You just have to make sure that it's in enough time, it's far enough in advance for them to process your request, mail you a ballot, for you to receive it and mail it back so it's postmarked by Election Day. Lastly, does it hurt my favorite candidate to have a second choice? No. Your second, third, fourth, or fifth choice only kicks in if your favorite candidate has already been eliminated and lost the race. So just a quick refresher, starting this year, you have the option of ranking your top 5 candidates in the local and local primary and special elections for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. You can vote for one candidate or as many as you like, up to 5, including a write-in. And lastly, ranked choice voting gives you more power as a voter. You don't have to worry about wasting your vote, accidentally helping elect someone you don't support, splitting the vote, and someone being elected with less than a majority. So before I close out, I want to show you all a quick video. So under ranked choice voting, there are essentially 2 strategies that a candidate can use. One is what we call the front runner strategy, where you'll see candidates asking for you to vote for them number 1. And if they're not your first choice, to include them somewhere on the ballot. The second strategy we've seen is what we call the underdog strategy. And that's where candidates build a coalition and work together and say, no matter who you're voting for, make sure you include us on your ballot. So I want to show you a video from my hometown of Oakland, California, where a few candidates work together to do just that.
Hi, I'm Pam Harris. I'm Nayeli Maxon.
I'm Shane Tao.
We're running for Oakland City Council District 4.
For the past 16 years, this seat has been held by dynamic women.
We are 3 well-qualified candidates for City Council.
We are mothers, public servants, and community leaders.
Pam has 20 years of nonprofit finance experience. She can manage any budget.
Nayeli has worked in the District 4 office. She knows the district's issues inside and out.
Shane has worked for the City Council for 5 years. She has the experience to get results.
We're asking for your support on November 6th.
This is a ranked choice election. Vote for us 1, 2, or 3.
You can learn more about us on our websites.
Vote for positive leadership,
collaborative leadership,
women's leadership.
Isn't that a big change from the mudslinging and I won't say fist fights, but darn near fist fights that you're used to? We're already seeing candidates working together and entities endorsing multiple candidates. So while you may not see a video like that in the upcoming election, you can definitely expect to, or in upcoming mayoral election, you can definitely expect to see candidates working together. Do you want me to just answer questions?
I can toggle some questions from the chat. The first one, Sean, is from Anna. Do candidates find out how many votes they got from people for whom they were not the voter's first choice? And also just one FYI, I think, Sean, you might want to stop sharing your screen. I don't know if mine is frozen, but it might be.
I think it's, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, so Candidates will receive the same information as voters do. So they'll see on election night all of the first choice votes. And then after that, they will see if no candidate receives 50% plus one of first choice votes. And so we've been working with the BOE and the entity that is providing the
Hello? Okay, I think maybe Sean got cut off. Laura, do you mind taking yourself off of mute? Laura's here from Democracy NYC, who can also answer some questions. And maybe Laura, you could give a little briefer on what Democracy NYC is, and then I can provide some of the questions that we have in the Q&A.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's so wonderful to see so many people join this conversation on a Wednesday night. Lots of parents, and I understand there are some students as well. So thank you so much. I am with the Democracy NYC Initiative. It is a nonpartisan initiative out of New York City, whose mission is to increase voter participation and registration. And so obviously a huge part of that is making sure that New Yorkers are ready for ranked choice voting and will participate in these critically important municipal elections. And in fact, we just finished one yesterday, as some of you are probably aware. There have already been 2 special elections in Queens this year. There are 2 more in the Bronx in March. And then of course there is the primary on June 22nd. And one thing I also wanted to mention, because we have, I think, some parents and young people here, is that 16 and 17-year-olds in New York can pre-register to vote. And then when you turn 18, you're automatically added to the voter rolls. So I can paste in the chat a link if anyone's interested in getting kids in your families or that you know pre-registered or registered. Huge shout out to Senator Camry and I believe Assemblymember Zinnerman is here for their leadership in the state legislature on these issues. And of course, to the city council and Councilmember Ampere Samuel's leadership in making sure that we have adequate voter education on ranked choice voting. You know, this really will take a village to make sure that everyone is prepared. And some of the key things that Democracy NYC is doing in the next few months is really trying to work with as many community-based organizations as possible to help spread the word. We are very focused on working collaboratively to make sure that there is information and voting materials in many languages, recognizing how many different languages New Yorkers speak. So we are partnering with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to translate materials in up to 15 languages about ranked choice voting that we will be doing our best to distribute as widely as possible. And we are also hosting workshops in different languages, including 2 next week. One of them is in Bangla and one of them is in Spanish. And then we're actually having one the following week in Urdu. So I can paste all of this information. And if anyone is, if anyone's interested in partnering with us to do a workshop, another workshop, we would be thrilled to do that. And once we have our materials ready in all of the different languages, we'll make sure to share it out with you as well so that you can share it with your networks. And yeah, I know there was a question in the chat about videos on ranked choice voting. I posted one that the Board of Elections has already created. We are working, we're actually partnering with a group called Brick Media to come up with a series of public service announcements that will hopefully roll out in the early spring. I think Sean might have rejoined. I believe his organization is also working on one. And I know the Campaign Finance Board is working on one. So hopefully with all of these different resources, there will be something for everyone, and we'll be able to use them to really spread the word and build. We just saw historic turnout in 2020. We saw people waiting in line to vote early. And it was historic, and we need to really build on that momentum as we head into these critically important municipal elections, which will determine who our leaders are that hopefully bring us on the road to recovery. So I will leave it at that because I know there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I will paste some information in the chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And thank you for providing those links in the chat. I'm going to just dive right in, and Sean, if you want to tackle it. What has been done? This is from Rashida. What has been done to protect vote integrity or avoid false positive winners? It seems heavily reliant on algorithms and hackable machines.
So I'll say that the process is still the same of ensuring the integrity of votes. For those of you who have done election protection and monitoring votes, you still get that same piece of tape off of a voting machine that includes the tally of first choice votes, and the final vote record is public information. And thank you to the council member for ensuring that the BOE is transparent in its processes, and the entire council for doing that. So the tabulation software is what we call open source, meaning that anyone can go to the website of the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, which is the provider, and they offer it for free on their website. Anyone could go in and download it and run the tabulation process themselves. That's full transparency. As far as ensuring that the integrity, our sister organization Common Cause and many others do election protection, and that will continue to take place.
Awesome. And then Quinia asked, do people that were knocked off, do the points that from people that were knocked off go to the candidates who were first and second place on the ballot?
No. So when we say second, that means that if I, as a voter, if I voted, I'm just going to choose a person in the room. If I voted for Nick, and Nick was my first choice, and Nick got eliminated, Princess might have been my second choice. So if Nick has been eliminated as my first choice, my second choice candidate then gets my vote. And that process continues. If Princess is eliminated, whoever I voted for as my third choice then gets my vote. So it's that same vote, it just continues to go from person to person if that choice of mine has been eliminated.
Great. Another question, if someone asks for another ballot, what is the likelihood that they will vote twice?
There is not. You can only ask if you ask for a second ballot, your first ballot no longer counts.
And I don't know, did you answer the first question? You might have gotten cut off, but do candidates get to see how many votes that they got? And you might have talked about that with the tabulation process, but just wanted to re-ask that because I know you had gotten cut off.
I answered that very well, but none of you heard me. So candidates on election night will see the same thing everyone else sees. They'll see the first choice votes that they got. If no one reaches the 50% plus one threshold, then the ranking process kicks in after all ballots are counted. And candidates will see the same information as everyone else, which is the round by rounds. And so while they won't be able to see exactly which voters voted for them and who went to another candidate, what they will see is as candidate number one is eliminated, they'll see where those votes go to the other candidates. So they'll see candidate X got 3 of their votes and candidate C got 12 of their votes. So they'll be able to see not only in a spreadsheet, but as well as in a visual format of where those votes go.
Great, thanks. And the last question that we got in the chat was, how do we encourage our friends and family and loved ones to cast their votes and get them information about ranked choice voting?
Definitely. So I know Democracy NYC has some great tools. We also have this presentation and some simple explainers. We have materials in large print, all available in 13 different languages. And I'll point out the 13 different languages that we've translated into are not exactly the same as what Democracy NYC and the CFB have put together. So we're reaching out to a wide audience altogether. In addition, we have an explainer video that will be out at the end of the month, so in another week or so, and that is available in 13 different languages. I also encourage folks, if you want us to do a training for your parents in your school, for your PTA, for your community organization, for your church, whatever it may be, we have organizers in every borough who are trained and prepared to do trainings, as well as myself and a number of other folks on our team. So we're more than happy to do online trainings, and we're actually starting in just a few weeks to do in-person trainings in a socially distanced format. So if you require an in-person training, we know there's a digital divide, we're more than happy to do that. In addition, any of you who may be getting Meals on Wheels or food deliveries from the food pantries or the food banks, getting books from the public library via mail, all of those will be including our materials in their deliveries to folks.
I just received one last question, and I'll pose it, and then we can stop there with the questions. But from Cal, there has been talk about possibly suspending RCV due to what is perceived as low voter awareness about RCV. Is this true?
There is a pending lawsuit. That lawsuit has been tossed from court to court. So I'm not able to say what the current court will do, but we are fully prepared, and I think the majority of folks are moving ahead with education as if ranked choice voting was going to happen in June. We know that it's happening in the primaries or in the special elections that have already taken place, and in the special election coming up in the Bronx.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sean, from Rank the Vote NYC. So grateful for you being here tonight. And thank you, Laura, from Democracy NYC, for dropping knowledge. And I know that you both extended invitations for participants on this call to reach out to you and also to participate in opportunities to get the word out, because we know education around RCV is key and critical. And we'll continue to work as a coalition, Achievement First, Uncommon, KIP, C3S, Democracy Prep, and the New York Charter Schools Association, and helping to further spread the word around RCV. I'm going to turn it over to Yomika Bennett for some closing remarks.
All right, great. Thank you, Jackie. I just want to say that this was the presentation that really clarified for me a lot of information about ranked choice voting. I hope everyone on the webinar today, on the event today, feels the same way. I want to stress 100% our gratitude and thanks for the senator, the assembly member, the council member. Thank you all for coming and sharing your words with us. I want to remind folks that they all extended the invitation. They're out there. The council member reminded us to reach out, be in touch, and do this again and again, so we really learn and understand the ranked choice voting process. To educate ourselves on the candidates that are out there, so that our first, second, third, fourth, fifth votes, right, count, and we put in that due diligence and effort. I also want to make sure that to correct my error, at March 28th as the deadline to register vote, it is May 28th. Thank you for that, Sean. I want to remind folks that there are other elections out there as well, so please check with the Board of Elections for that, the New York State Board of Elections as well, but certainly our partners here today, which will have all that good information. Sean and Laura, as Jackie said, thank you very much. To our partners, thank you very much. I want to, before we go, I want to drop, the folks put in the chat here, Rank the Vote New York City and Democracy NYC. Dropped information in there. Check that chat before we wrap up today. There's a lot of information that they have about upcoming and important events, things that families can do, parents can do, students can do, further information, volunteer activities, and more. So please check that out. I'll ask Laura and Sean if you want to drop your information in there again as well. Your contact information, that's appreciated too. Thank you all. Be safe, vote well. Right, get your information about the vaccine, get your information about your candidates, and most importantly, exercise your right to vote. All right, have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.